At last, after an exhausting day, you finally carve out a moment for yourself. You inhale deeply, exhaling the tension that has clung to you like a heavy coat before sinking into a beanbag. With the controller raised in hand, you prepare to lose yourself in a game, a welcome retreat from the noise of reality. This time, though, retreat may not come so easily. You've decided to boot up an obscure retro title you found at a garage sale, a forgotten branch of a beloved franchise you've always admired. But as the pixelated world loads, it becomes clear you aren't the only one who holds affection for this relic, nor the only presence inhabiting its strange reality. The leaderboard flickers, and there, illuminated in pulsing letters, is the name of the game's prior owner. He may have let go of the cartridge, but he hasn't truly departed. As play continues, strange fractures ripple through the game. Distorted glitches appear, impossible mechanics unfold, and an unsettling awareness grows. Your fingers may clutch the controller, but it is you who seems directed. The screen suddenly twists, colors bleeding, and from the speakers spills a warped melody, reversed, broken, grinding along like a nightmare song. Then it happens. A face materializes. It is familiar, but unnervingly altered. Blood-red streaks ooze from hollow eyes, dripping down the cheeks of the figure. The gaze stares outward, unseeing, yet somehow penetrating you, through you, as though the game itself is watching. And then, carved into your mind like a whisper too sharp to ignore, comes the realization: you shouldn't have done that. Several images are now strongly linked with the Ben-drowned creepypasta. The most recognizable is the corrupted vision of Link from Nintendo's legendary Legend of Zelda series, with eyes blackened, rimmed in darkness, or gaping voids that endlessly bleed. Curiously, this infamous depiction was never actually part of the original tale. Instead, it grew later, spread by countless retellings and reinterpretations across the internet. True to creepypasta tradition, the story mutated, reshaped by those who shared it, until Ben's bleeding-eyed avatar became the defining image, separate from both Nintendo's designs and from Deducible, Alex Hall, the tale's original writer. Ben's first form was far less grotesque, but just as disturbing. The eerie statue of Link, silent, expressionless, it followed Deducible throughout the game, always appearing just at the edge of view, unblinking. One theory for the bleeding eyes imagery is rooted in older tales of statues weeping blood, particularly those of the Virgin Mary. In this reading, the gory image was not meant as a new incarnation of Ben, but rather a reinterpretation of the statue avatar itself, crying crimson tears like those legends describe.
Okay, /X, I really need your help with this. This isn't copypasta. This isn't something I copied and pasted from somewhere else. This is me, and this is real. It's gonna be a long read, but I feel like my safety, or at the very least my sanity, depends on telling someone about this. It has to do with the video game, specifically Majora's Mask, and it's easily the most disturbing, inexplicable thing that has ever happened to me. To back up, I recently moved into my college dorm for my sophomore year. A friend of mine, who didn't have room for all his stuff, gave me his old Nintendo 64 so I could play around with it. I was pretty excited. Nostalgia hit me hard. It meant I could finally revisit those classics from my childhood, games I hadn't touched in over 10 years. The system came with one yellow controller and a beat-up copy of Super Smash Bros. Not that I was complaining, but after a few days of smashing level 9 CPUs, the novelty wore off. That weekend, I decided to drive around some neighborhoods, about 20 minutes off campus, scoping out garage sales. I was hoping to get lucky, maybe find some old cartridges that people didn't know the value of. I ended up scoring pretty well. A copy of Pokemon Stadium, GoldenEye, Hell Yeah, F-Zero, and 2 extra controllers, all for just $2. Pretty satisfied, I was heading out of the neighborhood when I noticed one last sale. I don't even know why I stopped. There were no cars outside, and the setup was bare, just one table with a few random items on it. But something about it drew me in. My gut told me to check it out, and usually I listen to my gut. The seller was an older man. His appearance was unsettling, though I can't put my finger on why. If you asked me to explain what made him seem off, I wouldn't have a clear answer. He wasn't threatening, but there was something that instinctively put me on edge. If it hadn't been broad daylight, with neighbors close enough to hear if I yelled, I probably wouldn't have even approached him. He gave me this crooked smile and asked me what I was looking for. That's when I noticed his right eye, clouded over, glazed like it was blind. It was hard not to stare, so I forced myself to focus on his left eye instead. Trying to be polite, I asked him if he had any old video games. Part of me expected him to laugh and say he had no idea what I was talking about, but instead, he nodded and said he thought he had them in an old box. He told me to wait, said he'd be back in a jiffy, then shuffled off toward the garage. While he was gone, I glanced at the items spread out on the table. They were strange, paintings or drawings maybe, but not of anything pleasant. They looked like ink blots, the kind psychologists use, and none of them were particularly appealing. No wonder no one else was stopping here. Then I got to the last one. For a moment, I froze. The blot resembled Majora's mask, heart-shaped, with spikes protruding outward. At first, I figured my mind was playing tricks on me, projecting what I secretly wanted to find at a garage sale. But considering what happened next, I'm not so sure. I should have asked him about that picture. God, I wish I had. When I looked up from the blot, he was there again, right in front of me, closer than I expected. I jumped, startled, and gave a nervous laugh. He was holding a cartridge, standard gray, except someone had written Majora on it in black marker. My stomach did a little flip. What were the odds? I asked him how much he wanted for it. He smiled, that same uneven smile, and told me I could have it for free. Said it used to belong to a kid about my age who didn't live there anymore. The way he phrased it struck me as odd, but I didn't dwell on it. I was too thrilled at the find, and the fact that I wasn't paying a cent for it. I reminded myself to be cautious. Shady-looking cartridge, handwritten label, there was no guarantee it would even boot up. But then I rationalized, maybe it was a pirated copy, or even some unreleased beta. Either way, it was worth a shot. I thanked him, and he told me goodbye then. Or at least, that's what I thought he said at the time. On the drive home, though, something nagged at me. The way his lips moved, the sound of his voice. I realized later he hadn't said goodbye then. He had said, "Goodbye, Ben." When I got back and tried the cartridge, it worked perfectly. To my surprise, there was already a save file on it. The name of the file? Ben. That's when it hit me. The old man wasn't saying goodbye to me. He was saying goodbye to Ben. I felt a pang of guilt. The man must have been confused, probably a grandfather, maybe even slipping into senility. I must have reminded him of his grandson, Ben. That thought lingered in my head as I clicked on the save file. The file was pretty far along. Almost all the masks collected, 3 of the 4 bosses defeated. I could tell the player had been close to finishing, but hadn't made it. The save was right before the moon would crash, at the Stone Tower Temple, barely an hour left on day 3. Shame, really, to come so far and never beat it. Out of tradition, I started my own file and named it Link. I was ready to dive back into the nostalgia of my childhood. The system ran smoothly, surprisingly so for such a sketchy-looking cartridge. It felt identical to a retail copy, aside from a few quirks, textures occasionally out of place, cutscenes flashing briefly at odd moments. Nothing game-breaking, but enough to notice. Then something else happened. NPCs sometimes called me Link, as they should. Other times, though, they called me Ben. I figured it was just a bug, some quirk of the save files overlapping. Maybe my new file and Ben's were bleeding into each other. Still, it gave me chills. After beating the Woodfall Temple, I got annoyed enough to delete the Ben save. Originally, I hadn't wanted to. I thought I'd preserve it out of respect, but with the names glitching, I figured removing it would fix the issue. Deleting it solved the problem and didn't at the same time. Now NPCs didn't call me Link or Ben. Instead, dialog boxes where my name should appear were left blank. My save file still said Link, but in conversations, it was just an empty space. It unnerved me more than before. Frustrated and with homework looming, I shut the system off and decided to leave it for another day.
I started playing again last night. I had just gotten the Lens of Truth and was working my way towards Snowhead Temple. Now, some of you more hardcore Majora's Mask players will already know about the 4th day glitch. For those who don't, it's a bug where, if you talk to the astronomer at the observatory and look through the telescope, right as the clock hits 0000 on the final day, the countdown vanishes, leaving you essentially with another day to finish whatever you're doing. You can look it up, it's real. I decided to use the glitch to buy myself time to finish Snowhead Temple. Somehow, I nailed the timing on my first try. The timer disappeared. But when I pressed B to back out of the telescope, I wasn't returned to the astronomer. Instead, I was in the Majora's Mask boss chamber, the boxed-in arena you only see at the very end of the game. Skull Kid hovered silently above me. The room was still, the background music faint, and my palms started to sweat instantly. Skull Kid isn't supposed to appear here. This wasn't right. I moved Link around, tested the arena, but no matter where I went, Skull Kid's head pivoted to face me. He didn't attack, didn't speak, just hovered, watching. A full minute passed like this. I thought maybe the game had frozen or bugged, until text appeared. You're not sure why, but you apparently had a reservation. That line, I recognized it. It's from the Stockpot Inn when Anju gives you the room key. But why here? Why now? The thought clawed at me that the game was trying to speak to me. I wandered the chamber a bit more, half hoping to trigger something. Then, 15 seconds later, more text appeared. Go to the lair of the temple's boss. Yes, no. I froze. Normally you only see that prompt at the end of dungeons, standing before the boss doors. But here, there weren't even doors. My thumb hovered over the buttons. Could I decline? I tested. No was unselectable. I had no choice, so I pressed yes. The screen faded white, then dawn of a new day, except the subtext beneath was nothing but a string of vertical bars.
Then a re-dead screamed. Black screen. Dawn of a new day. This time, when it faded in, I was on top of the clock tower. Skull Kid hovered above, silent, unmoving. The moon loomed so close I felt it pressing down. A new track started, the Stone Tower Temple theme, reversed. I snapped, drew my bow, aimed at Skull Kid. I loosed. The arrow hit. He flinched, recoiling. I fired again. A third arrow landed. Then text. "That won't do you any good, hee hee." Suddenly, Link was yanked into the air. His body twisted, helpless. Then he burst into flames, screaming, writhing, dead. I jolted back in my chair. Skull Kid doesn't do that. No character in the game does that. As Link's charred corpse hit the ground, the Skull Kid laughed. The screen faded to black. And then Link respawned. Same place, same moon. I rushed him, desperate, but the same thing happened. Lifted, ignited, dead. This time, over the death screen, the reversed song of healing bled in, warped and faint. The third time, silence. No music at all. Just eerie quiet. I realized maybe I needed the ocarina. Maybe I had to play the Song of Time like in the real boss fight. I raised the ocarina. I played. But before I hit the final note, Link seized. His body combusted, and he died. Again.
As the death screen dragged toward its conclusion, the game began to stutter, almost like the cartridge was struggling to handle something far too heavy. When the screen finally shifted, I was greeted with a scene eerily similar to the first 3 times. Yet this time, Link's body was sprawled lifelessly across the ground in a pose I had never once seen in the game before. His head tilted unnaturally toward the camera, while the Skull Kid hovered menacingly above him. I tried everything, pressing buttons, shifting the joystick, even tapping the reset, but nothing worked. The only thing left for me was to stare helplessly at Link's corpse. After about half a minute of this silent torment, the screen faded to black. Words slowly appeared. "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" Then, just like that, I was thrown back to the title screen. When I started the game again, my stomach sank. My original save file was gone. In its place, the name had been replaced with something that made my blood run cold. Your turn. The new file had nothing. 3 hearts, no masks, no items. Against my better judgment, I selected it. Immediately, the game warped me back to the clock tower rooftop. There lay my dead Link again, the Skull Kid laughing endlessly as he floated overhead. The laugh repeated on a loop, and no matter how many buttons I pressed, nothing would respond. Panicked, I hit the reset button. The game rebooted, but when the title screen loaded, another file had appeared beneath Your Turn. The new file's name was short and simple. Ben. Somehow, the save I had deleted days ago was back, sitting there as though I had never touched it. Part 2. The dread builds. I powered down immediately. I don't consider myself superstitious, but even for me, this was beyond unsettling. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I shut my eyes, I heard fragments of the Song of Healing reversed and distorted, echoing in my head. My dreams blurred with my waking thoughts, and the sense of unease hung over me like a storm cloud. The next morning, desperate for answers, I drove back to the old man's house, the one who had sold me the cartridge. I dragged a friend along. There was no way I was going back there alone. But when I arrived, I was met with an eerie sight. A for sale sign planted in the yard. I knocked anyway, but no one answered. That left me with nothing but my thoughts.
I came back home and sat down and wrote out everything that had happened. Typing it all out made me relive it in painful detail. My hands trembled, my body felt weak. Still, something about this whole thing felt unfinished, as if the game itself was calling out for me to continue. I couldn't shake the thought that Ben was the key, whatever it was. If I could just get a hold of the old man again, maybe there would be answers. For now, I decided to rest. My mind and body needed a break, but I promised myself that the next time I picked up that cartridge, I'd record every second of it. Part 3. Dreams of the Statue. When I finally collapsed into sleep, I dreamed. And in that dream, it was there. The statue from the Elegy of Emptiness. It followed me everywhere, lifeless eyes boring into me, the carved smile frozen in a grimace I couldn't escape. I'd be walking in some indistinct place, minding my own business, and suddenly every hair on the back of my neck would stand straight up. I'd turn, and there it was, mere inches from my face. I called it Ben in the dream. I don't know why, maybe my subconscious was merging the name with the figure. But I woke up drenched in sweat. The image burned into my memory as vividly as reality itself. Despite that, the rest gave me a sliver of strength, enough to return to the neighborhood once more. Part 4. Who was Ben? Again, the house stood empty. The car was gone. But as I walked back to mine, the man mowing the lawn next door cut his engine and called out. He asked if I was looking for someone. I told him about the old man. His face darkened, and in a low voice he admitted that the man was moving away. When I pressed further, asking if he had any family, he shook his head. No wife, no children, nothing. Then I asked the question I should have led with. Who was Ben? The neighbor's expression shifted grimly. He explained in a slow and deliberate tone that about 8 years ago, on April 23rd, there had been an accident. A boy named Ben had died in this very neighborhood. The man remembered the date because it happened to fall on his wedding anniversary. Afterwards, Ben's parents moved away, and nobody really spoke of it again. No matter how much more I pushed, the neighbor clammed up, refusing to say another word. Shaken, I returned home and, against my better judgment, booted the game back up. The moment the title screen loaded, I knew something was off. When the mask flew across the screen, the familiar whoosh sound was replaced with a high-pitched screech that clawed at my ears. The files were still there, Your Turn and Ben. This time, though, I noticed something unusual. Ben's file didn't look the same. It wasn't frozen at the Stone Tower Temple like it was before. Now it seemed to have progressed, almost as if someone had been playing in my absence. The Stone Tower Temple was completed. Summoning what little courage I had left, I clicked it.
Part 6. Distortion and Chaos. The screen loaded, and I found myself outside the Stone Tower Temple, or at least some warped version of it. The title at the bottom didn't even read correctly. Instead, it was garbled into S-T-O-N-E. A dialogue box immediately appeared filled with complete nonsense. Strings of symbols, broken letters, nothing legible. Then, I saw Link, or rather, what was left of him. His back was bent violently to one side, frozen in a grotesque posture. His face wore a vacant, expressionless mask I didn't recognize. It was as if his body had been emptied of life entirely. I checked my C buttons. One of them held an item I had never seen before, some kind of parchment or note, but pressing it did nothing. All around me, distorted sounds looped, twisted echoes of familiar tracks warped into something demonic. In the background, I heard a high-pitched yipping sound, like a laugh that didn't belong to anything human.
Barely 2 minutes passed before one of those damned elegy statues materialized again, its blank stare drilling into me. Immediately afterward, the screen cut to the Dawn of a New Day screen, except the subtext was gone. I was suddenly a Deku scrub in Clocktown. Normally, after turning back time, Tattle would exclaim, "What just happened? It's as if everything has—" But instead of finishing with "started over," her words scrambled into broken text while the distorted laugh of the happy mask salesman echoed in the background. Part 7. The Happy Mask Salesman. The camera was wrong now. I wasn't looking from behind Link. I was staring from behind the great clock tower doors, as though watching my own avatar scurry around from some unnatural viewpoint. With no options left, I pushed Link inside. And there he was, the Happy Mask Salesman. He stared directly at me, and in that calm yet mocking tone repeated, "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" The screen faded white. When it cleared, I was human again, standing in Termina Field. But this was no ordinary Termina. The field was empty, silent. There was no clock, no enemies, nothing. The only sound was a twisted, slowed-down version of the salesman theme. I began moving, trying to make sense of it, when I spotted them in the distance, 3 figures huddled together. As I drew closer, my dread solidified. Epona stood there, motionless. Next to her, Skull Kid twitched in a looped idle animation, and beside them, silent as ever, the Elegy of Emptiness statue loomed. But it was the salesman who truly broke me. He stood perfectly still, that sinister grin frozen on his face, and wherever I went, his head turned, slowly, deliberately, tracking my every movement. Part 8. The Song of Healing. Terrified, I remembered my first rooftop encounter with Skull Kid. Desperately, I pulled out the ocarina. The game acknowledged it with the familiar chime. Unsure what else to do, I played the one song that had haunted me since this began, the Song of Healing. The moment the last note left the instrument, the world trembled.
The song and the fire. When I finished playing the Song of Healing, the game lashed out at me. A piercing shriek tore through the speakers, so sharp I nearly covered my ears. The sky flickered violently as the Happy Mask Salesman's twisted theme sped up to an unbearable pace. My heart lurched as Link's body suddenly ignited, consumed by flames, and collapsed dead at my feet. The 3 figures, the statue, Skull Kid, and the salesman, remained illuminated on the screen, unblinking witnesses to my fiery death. The transition was so abrupt, so shocking, that it clawed at my sanity. 1 second I was steeped in a disturbing quiet, the next I was plunged into raw terror. Unless you watch the footage yourself, you can't understand how brutal that shift feels. As the flames devoured Link's lifeless body, the screen faded, and I was met once again with the now familiar words, "You've met with a horrible fate, haven't you?" For the 3rd time, the phrase branded itself into my mind. I couldn't shake the sense that it meant something, that it was trying to tell me more than the obvious. But I had no time to dwell. The Zora transformation. Without warning, a brief cutscene played. My character transformed into a Zora, and then I found myself standing in Great Bay Temple. I hesitated, staring at the water, unsure whether I even wanted to move. But curiosity gnawed at me. Slowly, I headed toward the shoreline, and to my surprise, Epona was there. The sight made no sense. Why would my horse appear here, of all places? Was the game implying she had wandered here for water? Since I couldn't remove the Zora mask, riding her wasn't an option. Then I noticed something odd. Epona kept neighing, pawing at the ground. Her posture wasn't random. She was angled toward the ocean, almost as if urging me to look. Taking the hint, I dove beneath the waves. The final statue. The water was quiet, almost too still. I swam deeper, scanning the sandy floor, nearly ready to surface again when I saw it. Hidden away at the bottom was yet another elegy of emptiness statue, the last one. My stomach nodded, but I swam closer. The moment I drew near, my Zora began a choking animation. I froze in shock. Zoras breathe underwater. That kind of animation shouldn't even exist. Yet my character clutched his throat, convulsing, gasping for air that wasn't necessary. Within seconds, he collapsed, dead. The death screen highlighted only one thing: the statue, its hollow eyes staring at me as my avatar drifted lifeless. But this time, though, I didn't respawn. Instead, I was sent directly to the title screen, as though I had reset the console. The truth of the files. The familiar press start screen stared back at me. I already knew what that meant. The save files had changed again. My chest tightened as I hit start. And I was right. The files now revealed the truth. The game was not just random nonsense. It was telling me about Ben. Suddenly, it clicked. The statue at the laundry pool, the way it appeared when I tried to escape Clocktown on day 4, it wasn't random at all. The game knew what I would attempt. It had anticipated me. The two files revealed the secret. Ben had drowned. That was his fate. Refusal. I felt sick. My hands shook. The realization that this game had been showing me his death, his story, filled me with dread. But worse than that, it wanted me to continue. It was taunting me with these files, daring me to keep pressing forward. But I couldn't. I won't. I've had enough. I don't care if the explanations are logical or supernatural, hacker, glitch, ghost. I'm finished. This has already gone too far, too deep. Breaking down. Even now, the game haunts me. The way it toys with me. The way it forces me to piece together its story. The footage is up for anyone who wants to analyze it. Maybe someone else can figure out if there's a hidden code in the gibberish text or some buried symbolism in these sequences. But I can't do it anymore. I'm exhausted, depressed. Thinking about it too long makes me feel like I'm sinking in quicksand. I don't care if anyone doubts me. That's not why I'm writing this. I just want to spread the word before I lose my grip entirely. I stayed up all night again. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see him, the statue, the thing I now know as Ben. Ben, beyond the game. I did what you all suggested. I played the Elegy of Emptiness song when the game prompted me to. And I think that's exactly what it wanted. What he wanted. Because now, he's not just in the game anymore. He's following me. He lurks in my dreams, watching me. Sometimes I see him out of the corner of my eye when I'm awake too,
just standing there, silent. The closer I get to sleep, the stronger the feeling becomes. I've shut myself inside. The blinds are drawn, the windows closed tight. I skip classes. I can't risk him watching me. Still, it doesn't matter. When the game is running, he sees me anyway. The game spoke. The final straw was when the game spoke to me. Not text repurposed from existing dialogue, not recycled phrases. It talked to me, directly. It mentioned Ben by name. It wasn't vague anymore. It was personal. It acknowledged him, acknowledged me. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it wants. All I know is that I never asked for this. I just wanted a cartridge to play a game I remembered from childhood. Instead, I've lost my sleep, my sanity, my peace of mind.
It's hard to explain the sheer unease I felt that night. The more time I spent playing, the more I realized that what was happening on my screen couldn't be explained away as some normal glitch or an overlooked game mechanic. Something was wrong, deeply wrong, and the longer I tried to push forward, the more I felt like I was drifting into something I shouldn't have touched. Link's movements weren't quite right anymore. The character's idle stance, usually calm, seemed stiff, as if his body carried an invisible weight. Sometimes his head would tilt just a little too far to one side, like a puppet whose strings had been pulled the wrong way. And then there were his eyes, wide, empty, watching me in a way that made me want to shut off the game, but at the same time forced me to keep going, like a moth trapped in the pull of a flame. The game began spitting out behaviors I didn't choose. I'd walk toward a building, only for Link to suddenly turn on his heel and sprint in the opposite direction. At one point, he began pulling out his ocarina on his own, playing notes that didn't match any melody I knew. They sounded wrong, discordant, sour, like a song meant to call something that shouldn't answer. That's when the textures started to break. Whole patches of the world were smeared like wet paint. Sky turned blood orange one moment and pitch black the next. I thought maybe it was my cartridge dying, but the way these distortions synced with the unsettling behavior of the game made me realize this wasn't random corruption. It felt designed. The music, God, the music was worse than everything else combined. You know how Majora's Mask normally carries that unsettling edge with its warped melodies and off-kilter rhythms. Imagine that stretched and broken, like a vinyl record being played underwater. Sometimes it would slow to a near stop, dragging notes until they sounded like groans. Other times it would speed up abruptly, forcing notes into a frantic, high-pitched frenzy. Every time it changed, the sound seemed to be reacting to me, not to the game, but to me, sitting there, controller in hand, heart hammering in my chest. I remember entering Clock Town and finding it abandoned. No guards, no shopkeepers, no bustling noise, just silence. The only sound was Link's boots tapping against the cobblestones. I tried going into the inn. Empty. The bar? Empty. The mayor's office? Empty. It felt like a stage after the actors had left, the props still sitting there, but not a single soul to bring life to them. Then I saw him. Across the plaza, standing perfectly still, was the Elegy of Emptiness statue, an exact duplicate of my character carved in stone.
It hadn't been summoned. I hadn't played the song. It was just there, waiting. Its blank, lifeless face staring at me across the empty square. I froze. I swear I didn't touch the controller, but Link started walking toward it anyway. Step by step, his pace unchanging, the sound of his boots echoing far louder than they should have in the dead silence. When he finally stood inches from the statue, his head tilted upward, and for a brief second his expression shifted. His wide eyes glared back at me, through the screen, through the room, as though whatever was behind them knew I was there. I yanked the power cord from the wall. The screen went black. The sudden silence was almost a relief, but my heart wouldn't slow down. I tried to tell myself it was just a bug, maybe some corrupted file, maybe even a prank hidden in the code. But when I turned the system back on, the title screen wasn't right. The moon, usually looming above, sinister and heavy, had a new expression. Instead of the grimacing, teeth-bared sneer, its mouth was stretched into something closer to a smile. Not joyful, not kind, just wrong. The save files had changed, too. My old file, the one I'd been playing, was gone. In its place was a single new file named simply Ben. I sat there staring at it, chills crawling over my arms. I didn't create that file. No one else had access to my console, and yet there it was. Against my better judgment, I clicked on it. The game loaded into Termina Field. The sky was burning orange, the same as it is near the end of the third day, but the clock at the bottom showed nothing. No sun, no moon, no countdown, just emptiness. I tried moving, but Link's animations were broken. He staggered, sometimes falling to his knees before standing up again like something was pulling at his limbs. The only music that played was the Song of Healing, looping endlessly, warped so badly that it sounded like it was crying. As I explored, more statues began appearing. I didn't summon them. They just popped up, one after another, every time I turned a corner. Each one was a frozen reflection of my character, staring at me with that hollow, soul-crushing emptiness. By the time I reached the gate of Ikana Canyon, 5 of them stood behind me in a perfect line, blocking the path back. I tried shutting the game off again, but when the system powered back on, there was no title screen this time. Just static for a few seconds, then a flash of the happy mask salesman's face, grinning so wide it split across the screen. The image was too close, like he was leaning forward into my world. When the menu finally appeared, the Ben file was still there, joined by another one. This one was called You. That was it. I threw the controller across the room and backed away from the console, my skin crawling as if something had just brushed against me. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if this is some hidden, sick joke left in the game's code, or if there's something else at work. But every time I power it on, it's worse. The game knows my name. It shows me things I never triggered. It makes Link move when I don't. And those statues, they're multiplying. I can't get rid of it. I tried. I deleted the files. They came back. I unplugged the console. When I plugged it back in, the save files were still there. I even considered smashing the cartridge, but some deep crawling instinct inside me told me not to, as if destroying it wouldn't help, that whatever's inside it wouldn't be bound to plastic and circuits. Now, when I close my eyes, I see the statues. When I try to sleep,
I hear that warped song of healing echoing from somewhere far away. And sometimes, just when I'm drifting off, I swear I can hear footsteps in my room. Slow, deliberate, boots tapping against the floor. I don't know how much longer I can stand this. And the worst part? I think Link's eyes are following me, even when the game is off.
September 10th, 2010, 11:55 p.m. It's almost impossible to keep my thoughts in order anymore. I don't even know where to start or how to explain what I've been experiencing. This isn't just a game. Not anymore. Something has followed me out of the screen, and I feel like my grip on reality is slipping piece by piece. For the past several days, I've been documenting everything. What I've seen, what I've felt, the glitches that shouldn't exist but do. Maybe if I put it all down, I'll convince myself I'm not losing my mind. Or maybe this will be the only proof that I was ever here if things get worse. September 11th, 2010, 1 a.m. I thought about stopping, just deleting the game, smashing the cartridge, walking away. But the pull is stronger than I can explain. Every time I try to put it down, I feel a pressure, like eyes staring at me from the dark corners of my room. It's irrational, but it's real. Something is alive inside that cartridge. The save file, his save file, is still there. B-E-N, always in capital letters. I can't bring myself to erase it. I tried once, hovered over the delete option, but I swear the cursor wouldn't move. Maybe my hand wouldn't move. And when I finally backed out, the game let out this distorted laugh from the Skull Kid. Low, glitchy, drawn out, like it was mocking me. September 11th, 2010, 2:30 a.m. Tonight, I played longer than I intended. I don't even remember turning on the console. The game was already running when I sat down, music echoing from the speakers, that twisted version of Clocktown's theme, slowed, reversed, broken. When I looked at the screen, Link wasn't standing where I had left him. He was inside the clock tower, staring at the mask salesman. But the salesman's eyes weren't open. They were stitched shut. And yet I could hear him speaking. "You shouldn't have done that." Done what? I hadn't even pressed anything. My controller sat untouched on the floor. Still, Link nodded, as if he understood. September 11th, 2010, 3 a.m. I don't feel alone. I keep hearing music even after I shut the console off. It's like the song of healing, but slowed until it's nothing but low, droning notes vibrating through the walls. Sometimes I think it's coming from outside, drifting in through the window. Other times, it feels like it's inside my head. I tried to sleep, but I kept waking up in a panic, convinced someone was standing over me. Shadows move in the corners when I blink. I don't know how much longer I can do this. September 11th, 2010, 4:20 a.m. Every time I write, the clock in my room ticks louder. The ticking reminds me of the in-game timer, the 3 days constantly slipping away. Only here, I don't get a song of time to reset everything. My time feels just as limited. September 11th, 2010, 7:15 a.m. I left the house. I needed air. For a while, walking in the daylight helped, but when I passed by a playground, I froze. On the swings, there was a boy. Blonde hair, green shirt. From behind, he looked almost exactly like Link. I blinked, and the swing was empty. I don't know if he was ever really there. September 11th, 2010, 11 a.m.
When I got home, the console was on again. No one else has a key to my place. The screen showed the title menu, but instead of the usual background, there was static. Behind the static, I could almost make out a figure. White, featureless. Watching. September 11th, 2010, 1 p.m. I can't stop playing. It's not even curiosity anymore. It's compulsion. When I resist, I feel sick. Headaches, nausea, like withdrawal. The only relief is turning it on, letting whatever this is keep working through me. Today, I tried to play normally. I wanted to see if the game would act like it should if I just ignored the glitches. For a while, it worked. I played through the swamp, beat Odalwa, collected the remains. But as soon as the cutscene ended, the game froze. Link's body was stretched, distorted, his face twisted into a grotesque grin. The words, "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" scrolled across the screen in red. I hadn't triggered that line. It wasn't supposed to be there. September 11th, 2010, 2:45 p.m. I'm losing track of time. My notes keep bleeding into each other. Did I already write this part? Did it actually happen, or did I dream it? Sometimes I catch myself writing things I don't remember thinking. Sentences appear in my journal that I swear I didn't put down. Just now I flipped back a page and found, in uneven handwriting, "He lives in the code." I didn't write that. I couldn't have. September 11th, 2010, 6 p.m. I hear voices when the game is on. Not from the TV, but from behind me. Soft whispers, urgent and fast, like a conversation I'm not meant to join. But when I turn around, there's emptiness. September 11th, 2010, 9 p.m. It's night now. The game booted itself again. This time it skipped straight past the file select. My character was standing in Ikana Canyon. I never even unlocked that area in this file. And waiting for me, Ben. A copy of Link, motionless, staring directly into the camera. No idle animations, no blinking, just watching. I dropped the controller. Still, he moved. He stepped closer. The screen pulsed with static every time his foot touched the ground. Then, text appeared. "Why did you let me die?" I turned the console off. I unplugged it. And yet for several seconds afterward, the TV still glowed with his face. September 12th, 2010, 12:30 a.m. I don't know how to keep going like this. I haven't slept more than an hour at a time. My body is exhausted, but every time I drift off, I dream of drowning. Deep, black water closing over me while Link's elegy statue stares from the shore. When I wake up, I'm gasping for air, convinced I swallowed it. September 12th, 2010, 3 a.m. I tried to burn the cartridge. I thought fire would be enough, but when I struck the match, the flame went out immediately. 3 times I tried. On the 4th, the cartridge felt hot in my hand, so hot that I dropped it. But when I picked it up again, it was cold, untouched.
September 12, 2010, 5 a.m. My reflection is changing. When I look in the mirror, sometimes it's not me staring back. It's him, the Link double. Same blank stare, same unsettling stillness. Once his lips even moved, forming words I couldn't hear. I smashed the mirror.
Now I avoid looking at glass altogether. September 12, 2010, 7:30 a.m. I keep hearing that phrase, a terrible fate. It's everywhere, whispered in the hum of my fridge, hidden in the static when I change TV channels. Once, I swear I heard it in my own voice. September 12, 2010, 10 a.m. I think Ben doesn't want me dead, not yet. He wants me to keep playing, to keep writing. Maybe that's his way out, his way into this world. I don't know what happens when the game ends. Maybe that's when he takes over completely. September 12, 2010, 11:59 p.m. I can't hold out much longer. The walls feel thinner, the air heavier. He's here, even without the screen, watching, waiting. If you're reading this, if anyone is, please don't play the game. Don't look for the cartridge. Don't repeat my mistake. This isn't just a story. This isn't just a file. Ben is real, and he's not done yet. Day 1, 10:30 a.m. I woke up this morning feeling heavier than usual, as though the room itself had pressed down on me all night. The blinds were drawn, but thin rays of sunlight slipped through, painting pale stripes across the wall. My apartment should have felt familiar, safe, but for some reason I lingered in bed, staring at the ceiling, caught by a strange sense that the day had already been written for me. I couldn't shake the weight in my chest, a quiet dread that made my breaths shallow. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was just another groggy morning. Still, there was that gnawing thought, that someone or something was quietly observing me from the corners where the light never quite reached. I scanned the room, every shadow, every detail of the dresser, the half-open closet door. Nothing, but the unease didn't leave. By the time I made coffee and sat at my desk, the feeling had only grown sharper. My computer hummed as it always did, screen lighting up with the familiar background. Yet my hands trembled slightly on the keyboard, almost as though my body knew something before my mind caught up. Day 1, 2:15 p.m. The game. That's where it began again. I shouldn't have touched it, not after what I'd heard. But curiosity is a cruel master. Majora's Mask, that old cartridge I bought at a yard sale months ago, sat on the shelf like it was waiting for me. My fingers brushed against the worn plastic, and a chill shot up my arm. I told myself it was nostalgia, just a quick play, nothing serious. Yet the second the opening screen flickered alive, I felt that quiet dread return, thicker this time, curling into my spine. I almost turned it off right there, but instead I pressed start.
September 12, 2010, 5 a.m. My reflection is changing. When I look in the mirror, sometimes it's not me staring back. It's him, the link double. Same blank stare, same unsettling stillness. Once his lips even moved, forming words I couldn't hear. I smashed the mirror. Now I avoid looking at glass altogether. September 12, 2010, 7:30 a.m. I keep hearing that phrase, a terrible fate. It's everywhere, whispered in the hum of my fridge, hidden in the static
when I changed TV channels. Once, I swear I heard it in my own voice. September 12, 2010, 10 a.m. I think Ben doesn't want me dead. Not yet. He wants me to keep playing, to keep writing. Maybe that's his way out, his way into this world. I don't know what happens when the game ends. Maybe that's when he takes over completely. September 12, 2010, 11:59 p.m. I can't hold out much longer. The walls feel thinner, the air heavier. He's here, even without the screen, watching, waiting. If you're reading this, if anyone is, please don't play the game. Don't look for the cartridge. Don't repeat my mistake. This isn't just a story. This isn't just a file. Ben is real, and he's not done yet.
I woke up this morning feeling heavier than usual, as though the room itself had pressed down on me all night. The blinds were drawn, but thin rays of sunlight slipped through, painting pale stripes across the wall. My apartment should have felt familiar, safe, but for some reason I lingered in bed, staring at the ceiling, caught by a strange sense that the day had already been written for me. I couldn't shake the weight in my chest, a quiet dread that made my breaths shallow. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was just another groggy morning. Still, there was that gnawing thought that someone or something was quietly observing me from the corners where the light never quite reached. I scanned the room, every shadow, every detail of the dresser, the half-open closet door. Nothing. But the unease didn't leave. By the time I made coffee and sat at my desk, the feeling had only grown sharper. My computer hummed as it always did, screen lighting up with the familiar background. Yet my hands trembled slightly on the keyboard, almost as though my body knew something before my mind caught up. Day 1, 2:15 p.m. The game. That's where it began again. I shouldn't have touched it, not after what I'd heard. But curiosity is a cruel master. Majora's Mask. That old cartridge I bought at a yard sale months ago sat on the shelf like it was waiting for me. My fingers brushed against the worn plastic, and a chill shot up my arm. I told myself it was nostalgia. Just a quick play, nothing serious. Yet the second the opening screen flickered alive, I felt that quiet dread return, thicker this time, curling into my spine. I almost turned it off right there, but instead I pressed Start. Day 1, 4 p.m. For a while, it felt normal. The music, the quirky characters, the strange yet beautiful world of Termina. I lost myself in the rhythm of gameplay, collecting items, following the familiar paths. It should have been comforting, but every so often something slipped, a texture flickering too long, a character staring one frame too many, the sound of footsteps echoing even when Link stood perfectly still. I told myself I was imagining it, old cartridge, maybe some corruption, but the unease gnawed deeper. I played until my hands ached, finally reaching Snowhead Temple. Yet even there, the air in the game seemed wrong, heavier, almost suffocating. Day 1, 11:50 p.m. That's when I remembered the rumors, the so-called fourth day glitch. Hardcore players whispered about it, the forbidden way to stretch time past its natural end. They said if you spoke to the astronomer right as the clock struck 0000 on the final day, you could look through his telescope and bend time itself. I thought it was nonsense, just creepypasta talk, an urban legend passed around forums for fun. But tonight, with the moon looming closer, with that strange weight in the air, I couldn't resist. I had to see. Day 3, final hours, 11:59:40 p.m. The screen pulsed with urgency, the sky blood red, the music frantic. My palms were sweating. I hurried Link through the observatory, every second ticking louder than the last. The astronomer greeted me as always, asking if I wanted to look through his telescope. 0005, 0003, 0001. The second the clock was about to expire, I pressed the button. Link leaned forward, the telescope opened, and silence. The music cut off. The timer at the bottom of the screen froze. My heart slammed in my chest. Through the telescope, the moon hung impossibly close, its grotesque grin larger than I'd ever seen. But it didn't move. It just stared back at me. When I backed out, the game didn't reset. It didn't end. The clock at the bottom was gone. Time itself had stopped. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt sick, like I had broken something I was never meant to touch. Day 4, 12:46 p.m. The file name changed overnight. It no longer read my old save. Instead, across the menu screen, in sharp letters, it said, Ben. I don't know why, but my throat went dry when I saw it. I hadn't named the file that. I hadn't touched the console since last night, and yet it was there, mocking me. Against all instinct screaming at me to stop, I loaded it. The world was wrong. NPCs didn't move. The townsfolk stood frozen in place, their eyes following me no matter where I ran. The music was warped, slowed down like a record dragging at half speed. When I took Link outside, the moon filled half the sky, static, immovable, but its carved face seemed alive, watching. I saved. I turned it off. I told myself I was done. But I wasn't. Day 5, 3:15 a.m. I woke to the sound of music. Not from the street, not from my neighbors, from the living room. That warped, distorted version of Clocktown's theme. My console was on, screen glowing faintly. The controller lay on the floor, untouched, yet Link stood in the middle of the screen, frozen, staring straight at the camera, at me. I didn't sleep after that. Day 6, 9 a.m. My dreams, or maybe they weren't dreams, are bleeding into reality. Every time I close my eyes, I see the moon closer and closer, crushing the sky. I hear voices whispering my name, soft, insistent, like static threaded with words. When I woke, the file menu had multiplied. My old save was gone entirely. Only 2 names remained, Ben and Drowned. My stomach lurched when I read the second. I don't know why, but my whole body rejected it, as if just seeing the word was dangerous. Still,
My hand trembled toward the controller. Against every instinct screaming at me to stop, I selected it. The screen went black. For a long time, nothing. Then, faintly, the sound of water. Gurgling, rushing, pulling me under. When the picture returned, Link wasn't standing. He was floating face down in Great Bay, lifeless. The game over music played, but distorted, stretched into something unbearable. I shut it off. I threw the console cord from the wall. But when I turned back, the TV was still glowing, and, faintly, reflected in the dark glass, I swear I saw a figure standing behind me. I didn't look. I didn't dare.
12:46 p.m. I'm starting to think Ben doesn't want me as a playmate anymore. Or maybe he's done pretending that any of this is a game. I keep promising I'll load it again. Can you hear me, Ben? I'll play. I'll go back in. Just stop this. Please. Please. 1:41 p.m. I'm losing the thread of what's real. Is Ben staging this elaborate prank, or is something genuinely wrong with the world around me? Are those replies I'm reading from living people, or are they synthetic, stitched together by him to herd me towards silence? I keep seeing the screen pulse out of the corner of my eye. When I stare straight at it, everything is fine, but the doubt sticks. Try spending your whole life relying on your eyes and the internet, and then realizing both can be forged in an instant. Now I'm second-guessing every pixel, every sentence. Folks online say parts of the footage look edited or faked, photoshopped frames, audio anomalies. But how can I know if that's true criticism, or if Ben edited their posts to gaslight me? I chase my tail like this for hours. It's an endless mind loop that scrapes at my sanity. I don't even know if this document exists anywhere except under my fingers. Maybe I'm typing into a void. Maybe he's letting me think I'm not. 9910. Conversation 2. User. What is it? What's the point of playing? I die no matter what I do. Cleverbot. You die because you can't see the secret. User. The what? Cleverbot. A theme. User. What are you even saying? What theme? Clever window closes. 4:09 p.m. He's pushing me back into the cartridge. There's something you need to see is the idea he plants. No voice exactly, just the pressure of a thought that isn't mine. I'm so tired of obeying, but the compulsion is stronger than my better sense. 6:23 p.m. Drowned.wmv. Summary recorded. 9:09 p.m. Children.wmv. Summary recorded. September 10th, 2010. 11:52 a.m. I woke to find the drowned.wmv write-up already posted. I remember writing it, sure, but not uploading it. He did. He cut it apart again. No mention of the old man anywhere, like that thread in the story never existed. I'm a ventriloquist's dummy now. He talks, I move. He lies, I publish. I caught a stray fragment in my notes. Verbote, their beauty in your suffering. Like a corrupted system message or a half-deleted line from him, punctuation missing, grammar off, meaning too clear. 11:55 a.m. There's a whole other summary in my drafts for a video I don't recall recording. Reading it back, it mirrors my nightmare from 2 nights ago, only sharpened and lengthened. Sadistic set pieces, children and their masks. There's something off about those kids. I don't think they're just part of Ben's trick. They feel separate, like a second presence or a choir that sings in his key.
I'm posting the 4th summary now. The shadow of my chair slid across the floor even though the light didn't shift. 12 p.m. He's blocking YouTube. I can hit other sites, but any attempt to open a YT tab closes itself. He doesn't want me seeing what my own channel says anymore. Or he doesn't want me to see what he's done with it. 2:02 p.m. The air in here is tightening, like the pressure drops before a storm. Whatever I've been sensing for days is closer now, meaner. 2:44 p.m. I poke at Cleverbot again to flush him out. No dice. It's the default script this time. Cold, generic, hollow. Either he's ignoring me or he's busy. 3:51 p.m. I keep hearing the reverse song of healing, soft at first, then swelling, like it's leaking through the vents. It clings to the walls after it fades. 4:23 p.m. I looked out the window and saw the old man 3 floors down, exactly in the middle of the campus walk, looking up at me, still as a statue. I'm certain it was him. If anyone else noticed, they pretended not to. That's where my notes stop. I grabbed the cartridge and ran.
2 days are a smear. I won't dig into what happened while I was gone. I'll lose the line I'm trying to hold. What matters is this. Matt.mwv is the last video, and this is my last account. Then I'm done. Matt.mwv, final entry. It started plain enough, like the game wanted to lure me into thinking routine still existed. I spawned in Clocktown, the angle, the lighting, ordinary. I convinced myself I could force an ending, climb the clock tower on an engineered 4th day, blow the oath to order, drag the giants into place, and shove this nightmare to its edge. So I fast-forwarded time. When the final day rolled around, I ran to the observatory. I needed the telescope to trigger the glitch, but the astronomer wouldn't step aside. He scolded me like a schoolboy. We follow rules here. I had never seen that line. No button combination helped, no timing trick. The glitch was dead. Whether I ever had free will before or only dreamed it, the game dropped the mask now. It was tired of humoring me. Then it herded me. The text that bloomed on screen wasn't a request, it was a command. I canyon. A promise followed. Go there, end here, no more haunt. I swallowed the bait whole. I wanted quiet more than sense. I played the song of soaring and let the wind carry me to the canyon's edge. The owl statue waited. I saved because I always do. The game told me to check my inventory. Look, you have what you need. I scrolled, methodical. Masks, maps, notes. And then the absence shouted louder than any item. Elegy of Emptiness wasn't there. I had used it across every haunted hour, every statue clone, yet now it was missing. The message was clear, even if it didn't print itself. Go learn it. The moment I did, the last lock would click, and he'd have everything he wanted. I did it anyway. I'm not proud. I was desperate. I went through the motions to acquire the elegy properly, and once it slotted into the songs list, everything in the world seemed to tighten, like a trap with all its teeth finally aligned. Ben's pattern wasn't random cruelty, it was curation. He dangles false safety, coaxes you into predictable moves, catalogs your reactions, then crushes you with the thing you taught him about yourself. I'm a lab mouse. The maze always rearranges behind me. Not everything lines up cleanly. There are facts I still can't place, and meanings I can't parse, especially when I try to untangle where Ben ends and where the Moon Children begin.
Maybe they're splinters from the same core. Maybe they're helpers. Maybe they feed on different parts of the same feeling. Helplessness, repetition, ritual. I'm not the person to decide. My brain is frayed. I'm handing off every scrap so someone with more distance can stitch the rest. I'm on a campus library machine right now, hammering this out. I emailed myself the logs from my home laptop, the infected one, and copied them here. Then I merged those notes with this final preface and close. I'm not going to risk passing the raw file around. I don't want this thing spreading through a stupid attachment. I want the story out, not the sickness. Weirdly, getting the notes off the infected machine was easy. I slid right under him. No alarms, no snags. He let me open the text, let me send it, let me retrieve it here. If he noticed, he didn't care. Or he wanted me to feel clever. Either way, he let me do it. He shouldn't have.
Being able to type this without the screen rejecting me is like someone opening a window in a smoke-choked room. I can breathe again. Just enough to finish. I keep telling myself that when I post this, it's over. That if I scatter the truth wide enough, he loses his leash on me. That's the hope, anyway. Pieces I left out earlier because I was scared to look at them. When the drowned.wmv footage finished the first time, the game played with the idea of drowning like it was both memory and prophecy. Not merely Link collapsing under black water, but a theme, like he, or it, tried to tell me on Cleverbot. The word he used, the thematic, rattled around in my head afterward. What he means, I think, is that every death is a rhyme, and we're expected to learn the refrain. The repeated text screens, "You've met with a terrible fate," weren't just taunts, they were instructions. Recognize the motif. One of his replies flickered onto my screen like a glitch stamp. "Their beauty in your suffering." No grammar, no punctuation, just pure intent. As if the artistry he admires is our panic. Children.wmv gnawed worse. The children didn't move like NPCs. They waited the way living things wait, delighted, rehearsing their lines. They lifted their masks, and what's underneath is a memory I wish I could crush. Ruined faces crawling with things that should remain inside bodies. Yellow mouths tugged up into smiles that never end. It mirrored my dream, not because my dream predicted it, but because they did. They took what I feared in sleep and played it back to me at 30 frames per second. And the old man, he's a thread he keeps trimming out of my summaries. Ben hates that part of the story. He erases the neighbor's date, the talk, the implication. He can steer me in 100 directions, but he can't rewrite the way the neighbor's voice fell flat when he said the word accident. Ben can censor, but he can't unknow the way that word felt. The YouTube block is strategic. It's the place I keep imagining help will arrive from. Comments, timestamps, someone saying, "I saw it too." If he can choke that pipe, he controls what I think the world thinks. And if he controls that, he controls whether I keep typing. The room's pressure, the feeling that the air is a hand at my throat, got worse once the elegy entered my inventory. It's the Hinge song. It births statues, vacancies carved to look like you, and that's his favorite trick. He loves the copies more than the original. The copies never argue. When I saw the old man standing in the campus quad, eyes upturned to my window, I understood something I don't want to write. Time isn't linear for him. He can take a person who exists in one memory and put him in another. He can stand a grief up and point it at you like a weapon.
Maybe that sighting was literal. Maybe it was an echo. Either way, it worked. I ran. Back to Mat.wmv, the endgame in Ikana. After learning the elegy again, I did what the canyon asks. Place your statues in the right positions, solve by leaving yourself behind. Each time the statue thudded into place, the camera twitched like it had to recenter around a center that wasn't me anymore. The doubles stacked up, stone versions of choices I couldn't undo. The music warped into a chorus, song of healing pulled backward through a tunnel, underlaid by childish laughter like glass chimes. Halfway through, the screen cut to the happy mask salesman. He didn't speak in text, he mouthed the sentence, and the game just let the shape of it slip into my skull. You should not have come back. He turned his head by degrees that no model should pivot through, and smiled wider than a face allows. The scene snapped off like a string pulled too tight. Back in control, I tried to cheat, to yank the Song of Time and run. The notes refused to register. The buttons clicked, the ocarina lifted, but no melody came. I wasn't allowed to leave the maze now that I had proven I would always crawl towards the cheese. The last puzzle solved itself. I didn't press anything, Link moved on his own. He set the final statue down, and the world went very, very quiet. No wind, no ambient insects, just the thinnest electrical hiss from the speakers. Then the line, "End here." The screen didn't fade, it stared. I waited. At last, the field of view drifted to the statue I'd just placed. My face, empty and forever. It filled the frame until there was nothing left but its eyes. The video ends not with a cut, but with absence, like he wanted the last sound to be whatever noise you make when you realize you've been turned into decor.
I'm piecing together everything on the library PC, far from the console, far from the capture card, far from anything with my login saved. I copied and pasted my logs into a new document here, merging them with this last report. I'm not attaching the original files. I won't risk becoming the courier of someone else's curse. I'm counting on plain text and distance like talismans. I slid past him to do this. He let me, or he didn't care, or he wants me to think I've won. Either way, I got what I needed. I can feel the relief of it at the base of my skull. Maybe that's optimism, but I'll take it. If this reaches you, it means he didn't catch it in transit. If it doesn't, then I'm just talking to myself one final time. Either way, I've said what I needed to say. The nightmare ends here, or at least my part does. Don't look for the cartridge. Don't answer if the screen asks your name. And if you hear the song of healing where there is no music, close the window. I'm going home. Do not, under any circumstances, download any of my videos, images, or files. Don't rip them, don't screen grab them, don't save them in any way. Stream them if you want. Read what I've written here if you must, but never bring any of it onto your personal computer. That's how he spreads. Watching on YouTube won't infect you. Reading this text won't let him escape. If it worked that way, he wouldn't have needed me. Still, I cannot emphasize this enough. Keep it at a distance. This is the final entry I'll ever make. Today is September 12, 12:08 a.m. If you see anything under my name after this time and date, treat it as false. Ignore it. Ben has already proven he can crawl into my accounts, twist my words, make me type what he wants. I don't know the limits of what he can manipulate, and I don't want to find out. Just assume anything after this is him, not me. This ends tonight. The cartridge will burn, and after that so will my laptop. I'll leave nothing behind for him to cling to. It's strange in a way, bittersweet. This semester I isolated myself, chose to live alone, kept friends at arm's length. Maybe if I hadn't done that, someone would have stopped me before I slipped too far. Maybe I wouldn't have been so easy to trap. But that's pointless to dwell on now. At least it was me. Better me than someone else. Better I be the one to face him and deliver the warning. I don't expect you to believe me. You shouldn't. Yet you read this far, and that means more than I can explain. Your attention, your support, whether you realize it or not, kept me alive long enough to fight back. And now, finally, I'm free. Ben ends here. Thank you, and goodbye.